Brown is returning to television. The show aims to tackle the divided political landscape through the same star characters that were on the show in the 80s and the 90s. Well, earlier, my colleague Vladimir Duthiers sat down with the stars, Candice Bergen and Shaud, to discuss the return of the show.
All right, so let's talk about why both of you wanted to come back and do this and revisit these characters that are so loved by Americans.
Well, if the election had gone another way, if Hillary had been elected, there would have been no discussion about the show coming back, because in our mind, life would have been good. But it was completely driven by the wealth of material that's being spewed out of the White House every day.
So how is your character, Grant, going to react to what is happening across the political landscape today in 2018? I'm curious, as a news director, how are you going to juggle what is happening in 2018 versus what was happening in the 90s?
You know, what's great is we're bringing our own journalistic values, you know, back to this new news program.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think our characters are coming from the place of this is what got us here. This is what we believe in. This is what we're sticking with. If we go down, it's going to be because we're driving the ship. You know, and I think Miles is there to, help guide that. But everybody's already coming from that place anyway, where, you know, we want to, maintain our objectivity. We want to tell the truth, and then let the chips fall where they may. You guys must wrestle with that all the time, right? I mean, how do you with your objectivity?
Right.
Well, keep it.
The challenge is always that we are as objective as we can be, but we tell the truth. And in this landscape, there are now variations of the truth, according to some people who present themselves as experts on what is happening in this administration or even in other administrations. And I wonder if that's going to sort of seep in. Because if you're saying that the show is back because of the way the 2016 election turned out, then you're really going to be going after some of those things.
Of course. We go after all of it. And it has been done so fearlessly and so wittily. I mean, Murphy's been banned from every press room in every administration since George Washington, and she finally sneaks into the press room, and we say, why do you lie? And we just say, so we don't handle anything with kid gloves.
And you can do that because it's a TV show.
Yes,
right?
We can. We have a lot more latitude. What Murphy and the situation that Murphy is coming from now is the fact that the press has been declared the enemy of the people. There's no respect left for journalism and journalists, and there's no respect for the facts. And truth is like, well, is it really
alternate
so?
facts.
Yeah, exactly. So Murphy's show is dominated by the fact that it will be meticulously researched. And we are trying to restore respectability to the press again.
Yeah, and we have an episode where we wrestle with whether or not to put a particular person on the air.
Steve Bannon character, do we give them attention? Do we give him the chance to plug?
That's a really interesting discussion, because that is a discussion that has happened in newsrooms. So I'm interested to see how you guys handle that dilemma.
Oh, to be a writer for Murphy Brown, you not only have to be one of the best comedy writers, but you have to be hyper informed and really stay informed, because that's the basis of the show.
Grant, when your people called you and said they want to redo Murphy Brown, what'd you think?
You asked earlier, like, why we would want to come back. It's easier to talk about why wouldn't you want to come back? I mean, it was the best time of my life, and the fact that it would, come around 20 years later through no doing of my own, through nothing I did, and the universe would just go, you get to be a part of this again. It was a no-brainer, and took about 0.25 seconds to say yes before they changed their minds.
Yeah, if everybody hadn't agreed to come back, I don't think the show would have flown.
Yeah, I think people, as a fan, I think that would be most on our minds. If everybody is back, then it makes it sort of, you're picking up from where we left off. But what has changed for Murphy in the ensuing years?
Well, she now has a grown son. And
I remember when he was born.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And her son is now 28 years old. He has his own news show. I mean, he's on the Wolf Network, so Fox. And he's a competitor of Murphy's, and they're on the show on opposite networks at the same time, early in the morning. So they're competing with each other constantly. And Murphy and her son have a very close relationship. He's played by Jake McDormand. But they're very competitive, but they're also very funny and very loving of each other. So that's a different vibe. And we now, because social media didn't exist when Murphy was around, so now we have a social media advisor who shows us how to reach you guys. Right. And he's played by Nick Dodani, who's a fantastic comedian, actor, and with an eerie self-confidence. And we have Tyne Daly, who plays Phil, the bartender's sister, who's been given the bar when Phil dies. And she doesn't want to be a barkeeper, but that's what she's got.
You've been a long time family member of CBS, right? And you've known all the legends that have walked through this newsroom. And I wonder if there's a bit of, because as soon as you said that, I thought of Mike Wallace and Chris Wallace. Mike Wallace, the legendary 60
Diane
Minutes.
English originally described Murphy as Mike Wallace in a dress, which is perfect.
Are you at all worried, Grant, about alienating people who are supportive of President Trump and his administration?
I personally am not, only because I tend not to worry about things I have no control over. So, you know, we're going to do the best show we can, and the chips will fall where they may.
I hope you're not on Twitter.
I am not on Twitter, and I'm very relieved not to be.
Well, Diane English, who wrote Murphy Brown and created the show, her family are all Trump supporters and Trump voters. So we don't want to drive people out of the tent. We want to, you know, I mean, everyone is welcome to watch the show. And does it have a liberal bent? Yeah, but everyone has a voice.
And I would just say, you know, I had a family member come to the pilot who's a Trump supporter, and he said, I didn't see anything that Bob Hope didn't do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Bob Hope would poke fun at, you know, political figures and, you know, stuff like that. He said, I was fine with it.
I watched you on Stephen Colbert last night.
Oh.
Well, I didn't know that you had dated President Trump back in
Once.
the day.
I was 18. Oh, boy.
Yeah, dated would, I guess, be a misnomer.
Yeah.
He took you out.
He took me out. It was when I got home, it was still daylight. So it was not...
Did he take you to Studio 54? I know that was like his...
I was in college. I was in Philadelphia. And he didn't yet go to Penn, but he came and he picked me up. We went to a steakhouse in Philly, and it was a very short...
How did you guys meet? Like, what was the connection?
First of all, he was not the president.
Right.
He was my age.
Right.
And still is my age. And he was, you know, a nice-looking guy, but and he called. And, I mean, that's sort of how we didn't have Tinder and everything then.
Well, we love you guys. We're so excited for the show.
Thank you.
We're
excited for the show.
I'm so excited to watch it. And
I'm having the cast over for Chinese dinner tonight.
Really? At your place?
Yeah.
Are you cooking Chinese food?
No, I certainly am not. But we do have someone who is cooking.
Yeah?
Who's a great Chinese chef.
Oh, that's awesome. So you guys are all friends?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
We went skiing together back in the day, which a lot of casts don't do on their week off.
I've heard. I've heard
but,
that
yeah, we had a little ski trip and many other excursions.
Well, we are excited to watch the show, and we're so happy that you were able to come by and
Thank
spend
you,
some
Vlad.
time
Very
with
nice
us.
to
Thank
meet
you
you.
so much. Thank you. So great.
Nice
So
to
great
meet you.
you.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
And here's a look at